This conference will now be recorded.
So in yesterday's session, we were discussing about what is replication controller, what is the problem with pod, why we should use replication controller. As I already told, we are using replication controller to manage the pod lifecycle. If I directly create the pods, is anyone is looking after pods? If something goes wrong with pod, does pod will come up directly? If I directly create a pods? No. That's why we have a replication controller, replica set, Demonst sets, all those things. So the replication controller is replicating our pods. Now, as I already told, these pods are managed by whom? These pods are managed by whom now? This replication controller. These pods are managed by this replication controller. To access our applications, to expose our applications within the cluster or outside the cluster, what concept we have? Just for a recap at high level, what we have? We have a services. Services. How service will discover or how service will discover or identify the pods based on what it is going to identify, based on what it is going to discover. Service will identify the pods based on what? Based on the labels, based on the labels and selectors. Now, if you see, I want to see labels, right? I can use this option. Does my pod has these labels? These pods has these labels. This pod has these labels. Now, these services, in those services, did we use those labels of these pods as a selector? Now, this service, is it going to discover these pods? Which means this service will have how many endpoints now? I can describe the service to see the endpoints, or I can directly get the endpoints. So how many endpoints that service has? No, 3. If you want to see directly endpoints, you can use this option. Do you see? Each service is having endpoints to route the traffic. Let me do some mistake. Now, here I have given some wrong selector, something like this. And let me apply my service. Let me apply that file. Now, why I don't have any endpoints for this service now? Even though I have a pods, why that service doesn't have any endpoint now? Why that service doesn't have any endpoints? What is the problem? Tell me, what is the problem? Even though I have this pods, why service doesn't have any endpoints? Even though service is there. Now, if someone access the application now via this service, if someone access the application using this service, the service will able to route the traffic from outside or inside? Let's see. So I'm using this machine IP. that service port from outside. Why I am not getting any response even though I have a service? Why I am not getting any response? Because does this service have any endpoints, any pods to route the traffic? No. Within the cluster also, within the cluster also, let's say this application. This application. If we try to access using this service name within the cluster, that service name and service port I am not using. Am I getting a response now within the cluster or outside the cluster? I open the port also. In AWS, I opened this port 31531. In this machine, in this security group, do you see that port opened 31531? Now it is not problem with firewall. From outside, it is not problem with firewall. I open this port 31531 for internet in this server from where I am trying to access. From outside also I am not able to reach that application. From inside also I am not able to reach that application, even though I have a service and I have a pods. What is the reason, guys? Because pod has what is the labels I have given for pod? What is the labels I have given for pod? App, Java web app. But in service, what is my selector? Name, Java web app. Is it matching? Is service is able to find any pods with this key, with this value? With this key, with this value, is service is able to find any pod? No. That's why service doesn't have any endpoints. Now what is the solution? These type of issues only will get in real time also. Some silly mistakes. Developer might be deployed, he will complain to you. I have my application deployed up and running, my pods are running, I created a service also, but I am not able to access. Troubleshooting. Can I troubleshoot? As a DevOps engineer, do you need to troubleshoot? Even though pod is running, even though service is in place, why it is not able to serve the traffic? As a DevOps engineer, as an expert in Kubernetes, do you need to troubleshoot why this is happening? That is what the real time work we do. You are responsible for deploying, troubleshooting, all those stuff. Now, I can see, is there any mistake? I see pod labels are correct, pods are up and running, but service selector is wrong. Now, what is the solution I have? What is the solution I have? What needs to be done so that I can access? There are two things. One, either I can I update my pod labels like name instead of app? Can I update my pod labels as name Java web app? That is one option. Otherwise, can I rename, can I update my service selector in service instead of name, can I give it as a app service? You see, it is not able to communicate. Let me come out. Now, here in my service manifest, can I say selector as app, Java web app? for this one. Let me apply. Now, this time, am I getting a response within the cluster? I mean to say, does one application is able to communicate with other application using service name within the cluster? Am I getting the response within the cluster? This application, I am trying to communicate with this application using service name within the cluster. From outside the cluster, can I use this node IP, this server IPs, that server IP and that node port? Now, am I getting the response from outside the cluster also? Am I able to access now? Is everyone clear, guys? If you still have a confusions, sir, what is this pod? What is this service? Even though it is the 6th day of Kubernetes, I am not able to understand anything. Is everyone clear at least today? What is pod? What is service? Today, I think 6th day. Day by day, people are not joining the class. Yesterday, at least I was able to see few more guys compared to today. Day by day, people are not interested to learn Kubernetes. So I can have something like this service. Now within the pod, I already told if I have multiple containers, can I create a service for other container? The way I have created a service for this container, can I create a one more service for other container? You can create a one more service for other container by specifying the target port. Now let's say container will be in same pod. Let me tell you, if you still have a doubts, let me show you. Now, can I have another container with same port? Can I deploy one more application which is running on same port? Can I deploy this application here? Is it recommended also? In multi-container pod scenario, as I already told, it is like a helper. You are going to deploy helper container, not completely different. Can I deploy other application like Python application also as part of the same pod? Can I deploy Python application or other application in the same pod? That is not recommended. Multi-container, some helper. Now let's say I'm trying to deploy this. Now, can I deploy this? So how many pods will be created? Let me don't deploy multiple pods. Your server will crash. So just one replica. So I updated one replica. So how many pods will be created for this replication controller? One pod. That pod will have how many containers? Two. Now within same service also, within a same service, can I have something like this? But again, can I have a same service port? Can I have same service port? Can I have something like this? Within same service, I can map something like this. But is this possible? This port you are mapped to this target port. Again, same port you are trying to map to another target port, which means this container. Is this correct? In a same service? In a same service, is this correct? Will you able to do? No. But can I do this way? Otherwise, in same service, can I do this way? This service, if I use 8080, same service, request goes to that pod. But which container? Which container it will route? Is it going to route to this container? If I do this way, if I use this way, if I use this way, is it going to route the traffic to this container? Now, same service. The port is not mandatory, it's optional for 80. Now, if I create a service like this, when I use this service port, request goes to this Java pod, but which container? It will route the traffic, the target port. Is it going to route the traffic to this container? If I use this service on this port, this service on this port, is it going to route the traffic to this container? Yes. This service, this port, is it going to route the traffic to this container? Yes. Otherwise, I don't want to route on 8080. Can I create another service? I want to use both services on same service port. In that case, can I create another service? One more service? Something like this. This time target port will be 80. Service name I will say Java Web App Nginx SVC, something like this. Now, another service on this port. Is everyone clear, guys? Now, at least? Or do you want me to practically show? Let me deploy. This way. Now I am changing my service port to 8080. I have one more service called this target port 80. Now let me deploy. Let me deploy. Invalid. Names has to be given, guys. When we have multiple, names has to be given for this. When we try to map multiple, names has to be given. Let me give name as Tomcat HTTP port, something like this. Name Nginx HTTP port. Some names. When we give multiple port mapping, we need to give the names. Now, if you see, did I not mention my container? One second, guys, something is wrong. Okay, so I will tell you, I need to delete the RC. I need to delete the RC and recreate. Replication controllers cannot be updated, guys. Replication controllers cannot be updated. If you see, as of now, in my pod, do I have two containers? Did I define two containers in my pod manifest? But if you see, it is still showing one by one. It is still showing one by one, which means if I update any replication controller, is it going to update the pods, or I need to delete and recreate? Is my pods got updated with whatever changes I have done? If you see, is your pod got recreated? Because I have done some changes. So replication controller cannot be updated. So I need to delete and recreate if there are any changes. That's why in real time, we are not going to use replication controller. because we cannot update the replication controller. You need to delete and recreate. If I delete and recreate, do we have a downtime? If I delete the replication controller and apply the new replication controller for the changes, do we have a downtime? Yes, we have a downtime. That's why in real time, there is another controller which we can use that can update your pods. That can update your pods. If there are any changes, if you apply, that will update your pods. Which one? That is basically deployment. Deployment. I will explain that later. Now, let me delete this. Let me apply again. Now, if you see, what is the meaning of this by 2? What is this? 0 by 2 it is showing. After some time, it will show 2 by 2. What is this 2? What is the meaning of this 2? What is that? Is it 2 pods? One pod with 2 containers. One pod with 2 containers. PG Raju is asking, sir, in one pod, can we create more than 2 containers? You can create n number of containers. You can create n number of containers. But are we going to deploy everything in a single pod, all your applications, as I already told? No. Now, this pod has 2 containers. Now, what is this? What is this? Why? I see here 2 service ports, 2 node ports. Now, only one service. Now, if I want to access that Nginx application, can I use this port 31531? Now, from outside, if I use that 31531 now, request goes to which one? Is it goes to Java pod, or I am getting a response from Nginx? If you see, I am getting a response from Nginx. Now, if I use this port 31533 port, I need to open this port. Then it will go to the Java pod. Three one five three one, right? 3153. So let me open that port in the security group. So let me open this. Now, if I use this port, am I getting response from other container from that pod? Something like this. Within the cluster also now, within the container also. Now, this time, if I do just a service, am I getting a response from which one now? I'm just using service name. I'm not using any port. The default port 80 is routed to which container now? Is it routing the traffic to the the Tomcat application or Nginx? The default port, Nginx. Now, if I want to access that Tomcat application, Then do I need to use that service port? Whatever port I have mapped, the service port also I mapped as 8080. Now can I use that service port? Is everyone clear? Now, someone was asking one question, Naresh, how we will come to know which container belongs to which port? How do you know the image is running on which port? Suppose you have not created image, you have not created image. You are directly creating a Kubernetes manifest file. How do you know which port and which port your image is going to be running? And which port your image is going to be running? And which port? That is where your learning will help. If I use -o wide, is it showing any ports? Is it showing any port on which port this pod has, how many containers on which port it is running? No. If I use EP, that will be displayed. That will be displayed as per your service manifest. As per your service manifest. Your service manifest. Now you are creating this one. Naresh is asking one question. How can I know this is my container port for this image? This is my container port for this image. Naresh is asking this question. How can I know this image is running on this one? While creating a manifest, how can I know this is running on so and so port? What I need to describe? First of all, I am creating manifest itself. I am creating a pod. To create a pod, I need to give these details. I am first creating a pod. First, I need to create a pod, then only I can describe. How do you know this image is going to be running on this port? That's what is question. How can I know this image is going to be running on this port? What did you learn in the Docker, guys? What did you learn in the Docker? Can I inspect my image if the port expose in the Docker file? If there is a keyword called expose, what is the use of that expose instruction in a Docker file? Why it is recommended to have a expose instruction in a Docker file? Because someone created an image, you want to know on which port that process is going to be run. If the developer has used that expose instruction, can I inspect this image? Can I see on which port this image is going to be run? Or if you don't know, can you work with the developer, whoever is creating these images, or whoever is creating these images? Maybe you can work with the developers or other DevOps guy who is managing these images. Can you go and ask that guy, what is this application? What programmatic language you are using? What software you are running inside that container? On which port that application is going to be run? Can you work with the developer and get to know all the details if you don't know anything? That is what DevOps, right? You need to work collaboratively with multiple team members like developers, other DevOps guys, infrastructure guys, to have this kind of application hosted. Is everyone clear how one topic is related to other? It is not like just whatever running nodes I'm giving, you are just taking that running nodes. You are taking this running nodes, copy paste and execute. Copy, paste and execute. That is not the learning. Understand what we are trying to do. What is pod? What is service? Tomorrow this application, today this application, tomorrow once you get into a project, are you going to copy paste my running nodes into your Kubernetes manifest files and deploy? No, you are going to deploy other applications. You are going to deploy other applications. That's what I'm saying. If you by heart some commands, if you by heart some YMLs or commands, is it going to help you anyway for cracking the job, to manage your work? No. Understand the concept. What is Docker? What we are trying to do using Docker? What is Docker Swarm? What is Kubernetes? Within Kubernetes, what is this pod? What is this service? So if you should be good at the basics. You should be very strong in the basics and concepts. If I know the concept, I can Google what is this replication controller YML. I don't know anything how to write a YML, but I know what is replication controller. Can I Google and have these sample YMLs? Can I replace all with my actual images, my actual values here? Without knowing the concept, if you just know how to write this YML, that is not going to help. So understand the concept and apply those concepts. You will become an expert only when you make your hands dirty. You will become an expert only when you make your hands dirty. What does it mean? Go and put your hands in the mud? No. Try to practice as much as possible. Try to practice as much as possible. Play, let the errors come. Describe the errors, troubleshoot the errors. If you have some time, sit in front of the system for whole day. Try to deploy whatever you wanted to deploy. Let error comes. Understand that error. How to fix that error. That is most important. Rather than just giving the whatever running nodes I'm giving, if you take this running nodes, paste it here, it will work because I have already made that work. Is it going to not work in your cluster? If I give this YML to you, if I apply, is it going to work? Definitely it is going to work. But you need to understand, okay, what is this? Now let's come back to our actual topic. We have a replication controller. The way you have a replication controller, we have other controllers. Replica set, Demonst set, deployment, like this. We have a pod, we have a replication controller. Now, what is replica set? What is replication controller? Replica set is a next generation. Replica set is a next generation or next version of replication controller. So whatever replication controller does, replica set also does the same thing. Whatever replication controller does, replica set also does the same thing. So whatever replication controller does, replica set also does the same thing, but only difference in It's a selectors support. It's selectors support. Only difference comes in it's a selector support. RC supports only equality based selectors, whereas RS supports equality as well as set based selectors, What is the meaning of equality based selector? What is the meaning of set based selector? Equality. What is equality, guys? The name itself is saying equal condition. Now, when we are creating RC, are we giving selectors like this? Here, are we giving selectors here? In RC, are we giving selectors here? So this is what type of selector it is supporting. What type of selector it is supporting? RC is supporting what type of selector? Key equals to value. Key equals to value, equality. Kind of a queries. Suppose let's say related to SQL. Let's say you have a SQL database, select star from employee, where employee name equals to Balaji. So if you are familiar with SQL, this is what type of condition? What type of condition it is? Equal condition. So this replication controller is trying to find the parts which has this condition, equality, key equals to value. It supports only equality. What is the meaning of set based selectors? RS support equality as well as set based, basically expressions, more expressions. Expressions. It is like this, not equals to, in, not in, something like this. So RS supports set based selectors also as well as equality based selectors. And what is the one more version, one more difference? What is the API version for Replica Set? What is the API version for Replica Set? I can exactly create something like this. What will be the kind if I want to create a replica set? Kind will be what for replica set? Kind will be replica set. So what is the API version for replica set? apps/v1 advanced, next version. But here the only difference comes in the selector. So it supports equality based as well as set based. Whatever you want to use, you can use. What is mean of equality? Here, in case of replica set, you need to give something like this. Even though it is equality, you have to give something like this. You have to give something like this. Even though it is equality, match labels. This is what type of conditions? What type of selectors? Equality. So if I am creating a replica set, can I define my selector like this here? If I am creating a replica set, can I define my selector like this here? No. It should be under selector match labels. Match labels. This is equality. Instead of equality, if you want to use set based, it will be match expressions. It will be match expressions. If you want to use set based, match expressions. So in case of match expressions, it will be something like this. Key, operator, values, something like this. Key, whatever label key. Operator, whether it can be in, not in, something like this. Values. Value is basically your this value. Match expressions is basically set based. You can match with multiple values, something like this. Or you can use equality, match labels. That is the only difference. Now I can have it something like this. Match labels app, this Java web app. Now when it comes to replica set, is selectors are mandatory? RC it is not mandatory, guys. Even though you don't use selectors, it is not mandatory for RC. But when it comes to RS, the selectors are mandatory. This is the only difference. This is the only difference. Now let me delete this. Let me delete RC and let me deploy RS. You may have a question, sir, why you are deleting? Can't we deploy multiple replica sets, multiple replication controllers, multiple deployments? Why you are deleting? As I already told, why I am deleting? Because of the resource crunch I have. I have a resource crunch. Is my cluster is very huge? Do I have a huge number of systems in my cluster? Do I have a more CPU, more memory in the cluster? No. So if you keep deploying lot of application, does my nodes go down? Does my kubelet stop responding to the master? Does kubelet process will be impacted? Does kubelet will stop posting the status to the cluster? Because it will be running out of CPU, running out of memory, your cluster will be impacted. So that's why I am deleting existing application. I am deleting existing application. This RC. If I am deleting RC, is it going to delete associated pods? Whatever pods it is managing one replica pod, it's deleted that one also. Now, instead of RC, let me have it as RS. Now, in case of RS, kind will be what? Kind will be replica set. What will be the API version? As I told, app/v1. But is this correct? Can I have something like this? As I told, even though it is equality based selector, this is not correct. It should be under match labels you need to have. Now I'm creating a replica set. This replica set is going to create pods. How many pods it is going to create now? This replica set is going to create how many pods? One pod. Again, that pod will have how many containers as per my pod template? As per my pod template, how many containers my pod will have? 2 containers. Now I have not modified anything. Service. I have not modified anything. Service. Now let me deploy. Before deploying, do I have any RS now? Do I have any RS replica set? 1 second guys. Didn't I deleted RC? Why RCs keep on coming up? I have not deleted RC yet. Okay, I have not deleted. Let me delete. So I have deleted. Okay. Now, do I have any RS now? Replica sets in this namespace. Just you want to see RS? RS. Do I have any replica sets as of now? No. Let me apply this. Name also let me give for a, if you don't want to confuse the name, let me say Java Web App, the name, something like this. Let me apply. Now, if you see, do I have one RS? RS. What is RS stands for? RS stands for replica set. Replica set. Now, if you see, now do I have one replica set? Do I have one replica set? 22 seconds ago, I've created one replica set. So, what is this desired one, current one, ready one? This replica set, how many pod replicas we are expecting? How many pods we are expecting for this replica set? One. Currently one, ready one. Now this pod, if you see the naming conventions, does this pod has replica set name hyphen some alphanumeric characters? So now this pod is managed by which resource? Which Kubernetes resource is managing this pod now? This replica set, right? Now what is this 2 by 2? Why I see 2 by 2 here and why I see 1 by 1 for these pods? What is this 2 by 2? As I told already, it has two containers. Now accessing, is there any change in the service? I already have a service. I have not modified anything in the service. Am I able to access the pod now from outside? This one more port, that Nginx. Now, is both containers running in same pod now? This application and this application, is it running in a same pod now? Yes. Okay. For that one, did I have the service created like this? Did I created a service like this, multiple containers? For this service, I mapped like this. Now, if something goes wrong with that pod, I am intentionally deleting. Is replication controller is going to be recreate that pod? Now let's say something goes wrong with that pod now. I'm intentionally deleting that pod. Let's say I'm intentionally deleting that pod. I have how many replicas for that replica set now? How many replicas I have for that replica set? Only one. Now I'm intentionally deleting that pod. I'm intentionally deleting that pod. Now, is my both applications down? this Nginx application as well as this application for some time. It is immediately created. It has immediately created. If you see, again, it is immediately created one replica. But if I have multiple replicas, now if I create another replica, can I scale like this? RS also. kubectl scale RS. RS stands for replica set. So this is the name of the replica set. Hyphen replicas. Something like this. Now, is it going to create a one more replica, one more pod for this replica set? One more replica, one more pod for that replica set? Then that pod will have how many containers? That pod will have how many containers? Whatever pod I am going to get, again, that pod is going to have a 2 containers. Now, if you see, am I getting one more pod for that replica set since I scaled 2 containers in that pod, right? So can I scale up, scale down replica set? Can I scale up, scale down replica set? If something goes wrong with replica, that pods, is replica set is going to replicate your pods? Yes. But what is the only difference? What is the only difference between replica set and replication controller? This is also interview question. The only difference comes in the selector support. Replica set supports equality based selectors as well as set based selectors. When it comes to replication controller, it supports only equality based selectors. That is the answer. Now, if I want to permanently delete these pods, these 2 pods, what needs to be deleted? If I want to permanently delete that application, you delete the replica set, which is managing these pods. If I want to permanently delete this application, Python application, what I need to delete? The controller, that RC, which is managing these pods. Okay. That is how you can create. Now, is it possible for me to delete something like this? kubectl delete all -all. If I execute this command, I have not mentioned the namespace. So what is going to do if I execute something like this? kubectl delete all -all. What is going to be deleted? Is it going to delete all the? It is not going to delete the namespace. In the default namespace, all the Kubernetes resources will be deleted. All the Kubernetes resources, which means, is it going to delete this replication controller, replica set, service, if we have any? If I say something like this, now, is it going to delete this replication controller, these services, this replica set, and its pods? If I execute this, now, in test namespace, yes. Now, if I want to delete only RS, that is not possible. kubectl delete RS -all, something like this. kubectl delete RS -all. So which means, what is going to be deleted? Is all the replica sets will be deleted in this namespace? Whatever replica sets we have in this namespace, is it going to delete all the replica sets? kubectl delete RS -all. Suppose if I want to delete all the replication controllers, only replication controllers, all the replication, I mean to say in this namespace, I can use RC. If I want to delete everything, can I do this? Something like this. kubectl delete all -all. You can do this. If I delete the namespace, will everything will be deleted? If I delete this namespace, delete ns, that namespace name, what will happen? Whatever resources we have created in that namespace, what will happen? I have some resources now in that namespace. What will happen? I still have some resources in that namespace. If I execute this one, what will happen? kubectl delete ns namespace, that namespace name. What will happen, guys? If I execute this command, what will happen? Since we are deleting a namespace, does whatever objects we have inside that namespace also will get deleted? It is like you are deleting one folder. Whatever subfolders you have in that folder, will it be deleted everything? Similarly, you are deleting a namespace. Whatever resources you have created in that namespace, will those resources also will be deleted from the cluster? Yes, right? You can do like this. Now, the way we have a replica set, there is a one more Kubernetes object called a daemon set. The way we have a replica set, there is a one more object called daemon set. What is this daemon set? How different it is from replica set or replication controller? How different it is from replica set or replication controller? What is this daemon set? In Docker, we have services, service models. In Docker, what type of services we have? What type of modes we have in Docker Swarm? In Docker Swarm, there are some modes, service modes. What type of service modes we have in Docker Swarm, guys? We discussed. Don't know, sir. We forgot. Whatever has happened. We didn't remember. I didn't get any answer. What type of service modes we have in a Docker Swarm? We discussed, right? What are those? People are saying two. It's not local and global. It's a replica mode and global mode. Replica and global. So replica mode in the sense, can I scale up, scale down replica services in Docker Swarm? Yes. Global in Docker Swarm, global service, global mode is nothing but what? Does each and every node will have a container for that global service? Yes. Similarly, in Kubernetes, if I want to have a pod in each and every Kubernetes node, similarly in Kubernetes, I want to have a pod in each and every node in my cluster. What object I can create so that it will make sure each and every node in the cluster will have a copy of that pod? We can create a daemon set. Daemon set. Daemon set is like a global mode. So if I create a daemon set, does each and every node will have a pod? If I add any additional nodes to my cluster, does the pods will be created for those daemon sets in those nodes? Yes, right? So this daemon set is like a global mode. Now I want to have some kind of a software, some kind of application which needs to be up and running in each and every node. That can be log agent, like fluentd, filebeat, or logstash. log agents or monitoring agents, like Prometheus monitoring agents like node exporter. I want to monitor each and every node, so I need to have some agent software for Prometheus node exporter. So in each and every node, I want to have those kind of a softwares, and those softwares are available as a images. Can I create a daemon sets for those kind of softwares so that each and every node will have those agent softwares in my cluster? Which kind of object I can use so that in each and every node I will have a cluster, my pod daemon set. So daemon set will make sure each and every node will have a pods for the daemon sets. Can I scale up, scale down the daemon sets the way I have scaled up, scaled down replication controller, replica sets? No. So we can create a daemon set. Just to give an example, let me take some image. Just let me take some image. Just I am taking this image. Now, let me update this file. Now, the kind will be what if I want to create a daemon set? If I want to create a daemon set, kind will be what? Daemon set. What is the API version for daemon set? Again, what is the API version for daemon set? It's app/v1 only. App/v1. I have given in the document also, guys. App/v1. And everything remains same. Just let me update the names. I'm just using some image. That's it. Here, whatever selector you are giving, whatever selector it is giving, whatever selector here we are giving, that should be your pod labels. Okay. Now, if I am creating a daemon set, will this will be allowed here? Will the replicas will be allowed here when I am creating a daemon set? Does this will be allowed here in this specification? In the daemon set specification? No. Daemon set, as I told, each and every node will have one pod for the daemon set. So it is not a replica set or replication controller. We cannot have a replicas here. It will give a warning. It will give a error. So daemon sets can be created based on the nodes. For daemon sets, for this daemon set, can I have more than one pod in one node? Suppose I have one node, let's say one worker node. Can I have a two pods for this daemon set in that node? No. If you have that use case, which you need to go? If you want to have more than one pod for the same application, same software, you go for a RC or RS. It will be based on the replicas. This daemon set is primarily for agent softwares. Do we need to have a multiple agent softwares in each and every node, or one agent software is sufficient to monitor that node or to send the logs from that node. Do we need multiple agents in the same node? I mean to say only one agent, right? So you can go for a daemon set. This replicas will not be allowed here. Now, if even though I have like this, when I'm going to apply, is it going to throw error saying that unknown field replicas? Similarly, let me update the service also now. Now, I am not removing these replicas. Let me try to apply now this daemon set. Is it throwing error? Is it throwing error saying that unknown field replicas in your daemon set specification? So which means, can I define the replicas? How many replicas I need for a daemon set? No. So this is not allowed here. Now, let me apply. Now, if you see, do I have a daemon set in this namespace? One daemon set now. How many daemon sets I have in this namespace? DS. In the short form, DS stands for what? DS stands for daemon set. So we have a daemon set. Now there is a daemon set. What is this desired to, ready to, current to, available to? What is this to? What is this to? Which I can see next to the daemon set? The number of pods for the daemon set. Number of pods for the daemon set. Did I mention I want two pods for the daemon set? Did I mention anywhere why it has created 2 pods? That is because total how many nodes I have? Total how many nodes I have? This is also a node. This is also a node. You cannot ignore this one. How many nodes I have? Total 3. But why only 2 pods it has created? Why I don't see a pod for the daemon set in master? If you see, this is a daemon set pod. One is running in 93, another one is running in 238. This one and this one. Why there is no pod in the master node for this daemon set? Because by default, master node has some taint. There is a concept called taints and tolerations, which comes in a scheduling part. So by default, master machine has a taint. Our pods are not tolerating. We are not tolerating the taints. That's why is our pods are getting scheduled in the master. Whatever we deployed so far, our own pods, is our pods got scheduled in the master so far. Whatever we deployed on our own. No. That is because master machine has a taint. I am describing the node. So master I am describing. So if you see, master machine has one taint. I will explain what is taint, what is tolerations, node selector, node affinity, pod affinity, that in a scheduling part. Now, master machine has this taint. Our pods are not tolerating this one. That's why is our pods are getting scheduled, whether it's a daemon set pods, whether it's a replica set pods, is our pods are getting scheduled in the master? No. So if I tolerate that one, in my pod manifest, is pod will be created in the master also. I mean to say whatever taint we have in the master, if I tolerate that in my pod manifest, it will schedule in the master. Now if you observe, I'm trying to see all the objects in all the namespaces. If you observe, we have a few more daemon sets. Do you have some daemon set called kube proxy in the kube system namespace? Do you have one daemon set called viewnet in the kube system namespace? So if you see kube proxy, viewnet, what is kube proxy? As I told, kube proxy is a network proxy which will be running in each and every node. So how Kubernetes is making sure that each and every node has that kube proxy, as a which Kubernetes resource it got created, so that in each and every node there is a kube proxy, that network proxy is running, as a which Kubernetes they created this kube proxy. If you see, daemon set. So if I add any other node into this cluster, does kube proxy will be automatically created in that node, that network proxy? If I add any new node, yes, right? You may have a question, sir, why these are running in the master, but why our daemon set is not running in the master? Why these daemon sets are having a parts in the master? These daemon set parts are running in the master. That's why you can see 3 3. But why our part is not running in the master? Because these pods, this daemon set is tolerating the taint. This daemon set is tolerating the taint, whatever master machine has. But is our own pod is tolerating the taint? In our pod manifest, do I have anything related to the tolerations concept here? Do I have any tolerations? Did I tolerate anything here in our pod manifest? No. So that's why it is not scheduled. I will explain what is the taints tolerations in a next set of classes, scheduling. So is everyone clear what is daemon set? What type of applications we will be deployed as a daemon set? Are we going to deploy our own applications as a daemon set in Kubernetes? Our own parts, are we going to deploy using daemon sets? No. Kind of a agent software which needs to be running in each and every node. We are going to deploy as a daemon set. Now, will I able to scale up, scale down daemon set the way I have scale up, scale down RC, RS? No. We can't scale up, scale down the daemon sets. Now, let's try to understand the important Kubernetes resource called a deployment. What is this deployment? Why we have to use deployment? Deployment is the recommended way to deploy applications in Kubernetes. Deployment is the recommended way to deploy applications in Kubernetes. Why? We should not directly deploy the pods. We know the reason. Why we should not directly create the pods? We know the reason already. Why we should not directly create the pods? Because if pod goes down, is it getting replicated, recreated? No. So that's why we are not going to create a pod directly. Now I can use Replication Controller or Replica Set to manage, but why deployment is recommended? Why deployment is recommended instead of Replication Controller, Replica Set? We already have one use case. You already know. Today, just before 10-15 minutes, we had some issue. Why it is not recommended to deploy Replication Controller or Replica Set? Why it is recommended to use deployments? Because there are lot of features, lot of advanced features we have in a deployment. Can you list, can you tell what are the features we get with the deployment if you have some knowledge already? I will be back in 1 minute. Try to give your answers. Why deployment is recommended? Okay, we'll continue. So deployment is recommended because we can update we can update pod pods, basically pod templates. We can update pods, and we can roll out deploy. Okay, roll back, revert. Roll back in the sense undo, revert. Deployments without downtime. We can update pod templates, pod specification. We can roll out, roll back the deployment without downtime. We can achieve zero downtime deployments. We can achieve zero downtime deployments. Zero downtime deployments. So we can achieve zero downtime deployments. We can scale deployments. We can scale pods, right? Now, most of the people answered same thing. You can relate how much you have answered. Okay, so we can update the pods, pod templates. We can scale the pods using deployments. We can achieve zero downtime deployments. We can roll out, roll back. This rollback is nothing but what? If there is some issue in the latest pods, can I revert? I mean to say, can I roll back to the previous version of my deployment? If there is a issue in current deployment, I can revert. Revert in the sense roll back to the previous deployment, previous version of the pods, right? So it will maintain history of your deployment. I mean to say history of your revisions. changes. So deployment is recommended way to deploy the applications in Kubernetes because of all these features. So in Kubernetes, the applications we can deploy using a deployment. It is recommended way, but is it mandatory? If you are okay to have a downtime deployments, can I still use RC or RS? Can I still use RC or RS? If you want to have a downtime deployments and you don't want all these features, still you can use. But which is recommended? Kubernetes is recommended to use what? Deployments. But in my project, still we are using some applications, we are still using replica sets only. Still we are using replica sets only in my project because we are okay to have a downtime deployments. We are deleting existing replica sets and we are creating a new replica sets, new versions for that one. Some projects we are using deployments. So based on the use case, based on the requirement, you can take any resource which is match your requirement. So again, what type of applications I can deploy using deployment? Can I deploy our own applications, our own microservices? Can I create a deployments for our own microservice pods? Yes, right. Daemon sets, daemon sets for internal softwares like agent softwares, internal softwares like agent softwares. Now, deployment is a recommended way to deploy the applications in Kubernetes. Why it is recommended? So in Kubernetes, deployment is a recommended way to deploy the pod. Even though I'm creating a pod, even though I'm creating a deployment, internally it is going to create what? I will just create a deployment. Internally it is going to create what? Internally it is going to create a replica set only. Now, I'm creating a deployment. So deployment will create one replica set. That replica set will manage the pods. That replica set will manage the pods. I am creating a deployment. This is my deployment. Deployment will create what? Deployment will create a replica set. That replica set will manage what? That replica set will manage pods. Now, if I directly create a replica set, if I try to update my image version, I want to currently this version of the image is running, version 1. If I directly create a replica set or replication controller, if I update my replica set, is my parts will be recreated with the latest images? If I directly use RS and RC, is my parts is going to be created automatically with latest tags, latest images if I directly use RC or RS? No, it is not going to update. In that case, do I need to delete that complete replica set? Then again I need to apply our replication controller. I need to delete and again I need to apply to deploy the latest images, the change latest code. Yes, but when I go for a deployment, it is not like that. When I go for a deployment, how it works, right? Now we are going to create a deployment. We are going to create a deployment. So deployment will internally create what? Deployment will internally create what? Internally, it is going to create one replica set. One replica set. One replica set. That replica set will manage what? That replica set will manage the pod. That replica set will manage the pod initially. Now, let's say I created a deployment with this version of the image initially. I created a deployment with this version of the image initially. Now, replica set will use this information. Replica set will use this information to create a pods. Now, is my pod will be running on this image initially? If I create a deployment, like this, replica set will be using that information. It will create the pods. Now, there is a change. Now, if I update my deployment with this version, I'm updating my deployment now. What will happen? What will happen? It is going to create one more replica set, another revision. We call it as a revision. One more revision, another replica set. With which version? If I update the deployment with this one, is another revision will be created with this information. Now, version 2, this one. Now, there are deployment strategies. We can use rolling updates or recreate. If I am using my deployment strategy as rolling update, is it going to delete these pods first before creating a pods for this revision? If I am using rolling updates, is it going to delete these pods, old pods, before creating new pods for this revision? If I am using rolling update, no. So if I am using rolling update, what will happen? First, it will create one pod with this revision. It is going to create it is going to create one pod. You can mention how many you want to one pod with this information. Now, even though you are updating, you are doing the deployments, you are using deployments, even though you are updating deployments, if you are using rolling update strategy, even though you are doing the deployments, while doing the deployment, does still end users can access your application? When this is happening, your old pods are still there. Does end users access this application via service? Do we have a downtime when this is happening? When this is happening, do you have a downtime? Still you have a old pods? No. End users will still access. Once this is done, it is going to scale down. Once this is done, it is going to scale down one of the old replica. So in this phase, does still we have two pods, one old pod, one new pod to serve the traffic? In this phase, do we still have one old pod and one new pod to serve the traffic? Yes. Then it is going to create one more replica. Based on how many replicas you have given. It is going to create one more replica. Once this is ready, it is going to remove this one. It is going to scale down this pod. Now, without downtime, do we have this up and running? How much time it will take? Is it going to take hours to do this rolling updates, or it is like just a fraction of a minute or fraction of seconds? Containers are lightweight. Containers can be spinned up in a fraction of minutes, fraction of seconds. It is hardly within a minute maximum. Within 2 minutes, your changes will reflected, right? Now let's assume if something goes wrong with this latest revision, Can I roll back to the previous revision? Still it is maintaining history. Still it is maintaining history, but it is just removed the pods, but still it has a previous history. Can I simply execute some command like this? kubectl rollout undo is like a control Z. Undo deployment, my deployment name. If I do this again, will it be go back to the previous revision? The old pods will be again, the new pods will be removed. Then does old pods will be recreated like this, like a graphics. So can I achieve these kind of features if I use directly Replica Set, directly Replication Controller? Can I achieve these features if I directly go? No. If I directly go for a Replica Set, directly go for a Replication Controller, can I achieve this type of features? No. So that's why deployment is the recommended way to deploy the applications in Kubernetes. So deployment will create replica sets. Replica set will manage the pods. We can update the pods. We can roll back to the older versions. We can scale up, scale down, all those features. Now deployment has two types of deployment strategies. Deployment has two types of deployment strategies. Very, very important. What are those strategies? Two types of deployment strategies. Two types of deployment strategy. One is recreate. Another one is rolling update. If I use recreate, the name itself is saying recreate. If I use recreate deployment strategy, when I am updating, it is going to first delete this. It is going to first delete this, then it is going to create this. Then do we have a downtime? Do we have a downtime if I use recreate strategy? Do we have a downtime? Because when I am updating my deployment, if I am using my deployment strategy as recreate, first it is going to delete this old, it is going to remove these old pods, old revision pods. Then it is going to create a new revision pods. In that case, do we have a downtime if my deployment strategy is recreate? Yes. So if I don't want to have a downtime, even though I am doing the deployment, I am rollout, I am rollbacking my deployments, I don't want to have a downtime, then what type of deployment strategy we can use? Rolling update. So this is recreate. This is recreate. I already have a deployment. This version of the image is running. If I am using recreate, all of the old parts will be killed before it is creating new ones. All of the old parts will be killed before it is creating new ones. So in this phase, if someone is accessing our application, in this phase, someone is accessing our application. Is any pod available to serve the traffic in this phase and in this phase? It is deleting first before creating a new ones. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. So in this phase and in this phase, is any pod available to serve the traffic? No. This is rolling recreate. If I go for a rolling update, it is something like this. It is something like this. I have old pods. I am trying to deploy. So first I am getting this pod. I am getting this pod. This is first phase. Let's say this is second phase. I am getting this pod. In this phase, if anyone is accessing, do we have still pods? Do we still have a pods even though I'm deploying latest code? Do I still have a old pods to serve the traffic here? Yes. Suppose if this pod is not at all trying, this is not able to come up. It is not able to come up. So it is going to delete one pod, but this is not able to come up. Is it going to go to the next phase? Is it going to remove this one also? Whatever is the, we have one more pod. Is it going to remove this one? Suppose this replica is not coming up. If I go for a rolling deployments, if this is not coming up, if your deployment is not successful, it is not going to delete this one. So which means still at least I have some pod. Even though my deployment is failed, at least will I have some pod? Even though one pod will be down, one old pod, still we have a one more pod. This will never be removed. But if this becomes successful, then is it going to spin up one more pod, and is it going to remove the previous pod, old pod? Yes. So this way, can I achieve zero downtime deployments using my deployment strategy as rolling deployments, rolling updates? Can I achieve zero downtime deployments using rolling updates? Yes. So what is the default deployment strategy? All are interview questions. All are interview questions. Very, very important. What is the default deployment strategy? This is the default deployment strategy. This is the default deployment strategy. Now, let me demonstrate. Let me delete whatever I have, guys. If I keep deploying lot of application, you will have a problem. So now, let me delete this RS. If I have any RS, I don't have RS. Let me delete this Demonst set. Let me delete this Demonst set. Let me delete that RC also, that Python application. Now, I'll just deploy deployment. We'll continue next class. Okay. Now, I don't want to deploy as a deployment. Instead of, sorry, replica set. Can I go for a deployment because of the advanced features I have? Now, I don't want to deploy as a replica set. I want to deploy as a Demonst set. So what will be the kind? What will be the kind? Kind will be deployment. Everything remains same. There is nothing changed. Exactly same as your replica set. Only kind is getting changed. Now let me demonstrate with single container only. Let me demonstrate with only single container. Now, exactly same as replica set, only thing is kind is deployment. Now, this is I'm initially creating. When I'm initially creating, does this deployment strategies will be considered when I am first time, when I am deploying the deployment for the first time, is this strategies will be considered? I have a strategies like recreate, rolling updates, all those things. Will these will be considered when we are deploying first time? No. Now I am using deployment strategy as recreate. This is going to be not considered when we are deploying for the first time. Now, as of now, do I have any deployment in this namespace? Deployment in this namespace? As of now, no. Now, let me create a deployment. Line number 10, we have an issue. What do we have in line number 10? Line number 10. There might be some hidden space or tab. Okay, this is correct. There might be hidden space or tab. Okay, that will be the problem. Okay, let me type once again. Let me remove this. There might be some hidden spaces here. Now you can apply the strategy. Something like this. Type recreate. So let me apply. Now, when we are creating the deployment for the first time, is it going to be considered those that strategy? No, for the first time. Now we created a deployment. Deployment, is it internally created? Is it internally created a replica set? Do you see who created this replica set? Who created this replica set? This one, if you see the naming standard, deployment, some alphanumeric. Now, these parts are managed by which replica set now? This one. Now, when I update my image, let's say instead of this image, I want to have a different image. There is a change in my code. Since my deployment strategy is recreate, does this application will be down when I update my deployment? Now this application is up and running. Now when I update my deployment, will my application will become down? Since I am using my deployment strategy as recreate kubectl apply -f the deployment. If you see, is my application is down when we are updating the deployment because of my deployment strategy recreate. First old pods has been deleted, then it is creating a new pods. Old pods has been deleted, then it has created a new pods. Now, is my application down when I am doing the deployments? When I roll back my deployments, if my deployment strategy is recreate, it's down. So rolling update, I will demonstrate in the next class, Monday. Tomorrow and after tomorrow, I am giving off so that you can practice, you can complete the assignments. But again, going onwards, there is no off. Next week and after that next week, there is no off on Saturday. Only tomorrow off. Next week and after that week also, we will have a classes on Saturday. Tomorrow and after tomorrow, you can practice. I want to give one assignment also. Using Jenkins, I would like you to build the image, push the image, and deploy that application, that image, into a Kubernetes using Jenkins. Will you guys give a try? CI/CD. using Jenkins, I want you to, the way you have deployed in Docker Swarm cluster, I want you to deploy in a Kubernetes cluster. There is a detailed video in our YouTube channel, guys. There is a detailed video in our YouTube channel. You can refer that if you want to do. This video. So we got a tremendous feedback for this video. Almost close to 90,000 people watch this video. So go through this video. I have explained step by step. Since you already know Jenkins, since you already know Kubernetes, since you already know Docker, can't you have all those steps, whatever I have executed manually to build the image, push the image, and applying those manifest files? Can't you have that part of your pipeline? You need to apply all these concepts in a pipeline now. So I have explained step by step in this video. Here I am using two approaches. One is Kubernetes deploy plugin, but the deploy plugin is not working. The deploy plugin is not working with latest Kubernetes. Now, can I have a kubectl in my Jenkins server? Can I have a installed kubectl in my Jenkins server? Can I execute kubectl apply commands as part of my pipeline? I no need to SSH to the Kubernetes master. I no need to SSH to the Kubernetes master. If I have a kubectl and kubeconfig configured in my Jenkins server, even though I execute kubectl in Jenkins, is it going to talk to the Kubernetes cluster to create those resources? Yes. So there is a video here. I applied two approaches. I applied two approaches here. One is Kubernetes deploy plugin, but the deploy plugin is not working. So I explained another approach also in the same video, kubectl, how to configure kubectl and how to work. I have explained in this video. I would like to do this assignment also. Deploy whatever image you would like to deploy. So can I maintain now my Kubernetes manifest also as part of my source code? The way I am maintaining source code, the way I am maintaining Jenkins file, the way I am maintaining Docker file in SCM. Now do I need to maintain my Kubernetes manifest files also as part of our source code so that those YMLs will be part of your Jenkins pipeline? You can apply that. So you need to have those YMLs also as part of your source code. So go through this video, you can understand. I would like to do the assignment so that you can understand all the tools, how we can integrate with each other in our DevOps lifecycle. That is the assignment, guys. So we still need to discuss on deployment. What is this deployment? Then later we will still have a lot of topics to cover. What is stateful set, volumes, lot of things are there, guys. It is just only 30% to 40% of Kubernetes is done. Still, we need lot of advanced concepts to be discussed. Stateful set, HPA, volumes, scheduling, lot of stuff are there. We'll continue slowly. But unless until you practice, unless until you spend some time in front of the system, unless until you spend some time in front of the system to practice, revise, read the documents, understand the concept, it will be very difficult. Naresh is asking what kind of softwares we will use for a Demonst. As I told, you want to monitor all your Kubernetes nodes using Prometheus. Does Prometheus require some agent in each and every node to check what is happening in that node? What is the CPU utilization? What is the memory utilization? of that node monitoring agent that I can apply as a daemon set. Suppose I am using Splunk or I am using ELK, Elasticsearch, for log aggregation, log monitoring. Do we need to have log agents in each and every node to send the logs, your application logs, system logs to one central location so that you can visualize those log agents? Some application or some software which needs to be run in each and every node. That can be anything, any kind of a agent. What type of object I can deploy in Kubernetes? As a daemon set. Okay. Any questions, guys, before I stop the session for this week? Okay. If not, I'll continue on Monday. Complete the assignment and practice so that we can continue from Monday. My sincere suggestion, you need to spend some effort. You need to sit in front of the system to attend the class, to practice all the topics, to do the assignments, then only you can understand. Okay. Thank you, guys. While practicing, if you have any issues, kindly post in the Skype group. There is a Skype group for each and every batch, right? Post your issues, queries in the Skype group. First, understand what is that error. Don't the moment you get error, don't just copy paste that error into the Skype group. Understand what is the problem. Try if you are able to resolve yourself. If you are not able to resolve yourself, then post in the Skype group. In real time also you are going to get issues. People are hiring you to solve the problems only. People are hiring you to have to solve these kind of problems only. You are going to deploy a lot of applications. There might be some issues with your infrastructure. There might be some issues with your Docker files. There might be some issues with your deployments. They are hiring you to solve these problems, whatever you are getting now when you are practicing. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend. We'll continue on Monday.